Hello, welcome to week 2 of TGIS 311. When you attend class, please remember to leave your tent cards at the front, or you may leave them at your seat, and I will bring them for next time. If you do not have a tent card, please be sure to create one as you come in to the classroom. Also, another reminder, I will hold office hours on every Tuesday and Thursday of class, or Monday or Wednesday of class, whenever we do have class, for 1 hour before the class start time. Another reminder, open labs on UW campus. Be sure to find out which version of ArcGIS Pro is available. They should all be updated. They are listed here. We discussed this on week 1. These hours are for summer 2025. If you're attending in autumn, be sure to check for the hours. I'm pretty sure they're open longer, more hours during the autumn quarter. Some topics for discussion this week we may take care of in class or in the discussion boards. What are your thoughts on the flipped aspect of this course? Do you see the benefits? Do you feel there are any downsides? Be sure to take breaks every hour-ish, or I will take breaks every hour-ish if I talk more than an hour in class, which I shouldn't because these lecture videos are online for you, or you may always take them on your own. Feel free to take your mini breaks when you need them. My intention is for you to work on the harder things in class, which means not watching videos, doing the required reading, or the online quizzes, etc. I would utilize that time for working on the labs or any assignments that require ArcGIS. Zoom links will be provided. If we're going to have a Zoom class, I'll send a notice on Canvas and via email. ArcGIS Online, USB, computer or lab related questions, feel free to bring those up. If you're wondering where to save your GIS stuff, LabX will get into that quite a bit, but in terms of very general saving suggestions, if you're using UW desktop computers, save to a single USB and use LabX to get that started. And then back it all up as I demonstrated in class our first week to USB 2. If you're using a personal computer and you have a D drive, I would save everything to your D drive. Otherwise, save everything to your C drive and back up everything, as again I covered in week 1, to a USB. Summer, week 2, this is the tentative plan, starting at 4:30 with my office hours, and then class at 5:30. In autumn, 3:30 is when office hours begin, and 4:30 or 4:35 officially is when class starts. As promised in week 1, I'm looking for you to develop an elevator speech of what is GIS. I gave you a couple assignments to use to prepare for that. The easiest definition that I could help you come up with would be to capture, store, manipulate, analyze, manage, and present data, usually in the form of maps. What kind of data, you ask? It can be geographic data. It usually is geographic data, but it's also data that is not geographic, but we make it geographic. Also, the two types of data are vectors and rasters. There are points, lines, and polygons that make up the vectors. Shown below, there are 3 types of data. You should be able to determine what types of data these are. And you also should be able to match up A, B, C, and D with the 4 layers that are off to the right. In this case, these are shapefiles. .shp designates them as shapefiles. If they were gray in color on the right side, that would indicate that they are feature classes. So that's something to keep in mind. We also call them features. And in this example, of course, A and D are the polygon vector data. The item C is a line vector data, and item B is point data. Lab X begins today, and we'll be using vector data. If you're looking at this screen, or while you're looking at this screen, there are a couple views of Windows and there are a couple views of Pro. The two on the left are Pro and the two on the right are Windows. You'll notice that in the second image, so this image right here, going left to right, we have cities, counties, states, and streets. They're the same that are down here, but I just blew it up, so it's a little bit bigger. You'll be receiving this data in a zipped up folder, and you will place it in your raw data. But in terms of the data, cities, counties, states, and streets make up 4 shapefiles within the data that you're provided. However, if you were to look at this data in Windows, these two images are Windows on the right. Cities is comprised of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different files, as are the other 3 shapefiles. So these shapefiles, according to Windows, comprise 7 different files, which is a lot different than a Microsoft Word document, for example. If you were to look at a Microsoft Word document or a PDF document, there would be just one document. But in this case, we're dealing with geographic data, and the intricacies of it require several files working together, all with the same name, just with different extensions. So these extensions could be, they're not, but they could be a docx that you're familiar with, a .pdf, a .jpg, a .png, which if you don't know about yet, you'll be learning, a .zip, which is a zip file. It's important to start recognizing these extensions on the file names, and also realizing that these are shapefiles in Pro. They're also shapefiles in Windows, but in Windows, to create the shapefile, it's not just the .shp that appears here. For example, in cities, you need all of these files together to comprise this cities. If one of these files was missing, this cities file in Pro would not work. It still may show up, but it will not work. This is a skip ahead slide. I'm just bringing it up here to remind you that before you leave, be sure to complete all of the deliverable requirements for the day. And that will depend on what we have going on that day. Be sure to properly eject your USBs if you're using a desktop computer. Sign out or off of the desktop. I can't remember what it's called. And return the HDMI cord as you're doing that process. Restart the computer at the very end. That refreshes it for the next student that uses it, or perhaps you when you go to use it the next time. And then either leave the 10 card at your seat or bring the 10 card up to the front, please. And for this image, or these images, it is still images of LabX. This is what LabX will look like when you're almost done. On the bottom, this PC is Windows version of what your data will look like, parts of it, and then this little drop down with folders is part of what Pro will look like. These are just for filling up a little bit of space while I use the little reminder for this slide. I've got 2 maps of the day for this lecture video. You can go to these by typing them in, or the much easier method would be to open the PowerPoint PDF and look at these items. You could also perhaps Google story maps, the human reach, and then Atlas. This will show up for you. There are 8 different areas of looking at the Earth, and they're across the top. And it's a very interesting visual. I'll click through it quickly in class, but you may want to look at it on your own. Another map of the day that goes back to the war in Ukraine, from Russia moving into Ukraine. This is a much better version of a Ukraine area map than I showed on week 1. You'll notice that the Black Sea is labeled. It has a very unique locator map that shows us that we are focused on Ukraine, and it gives you an idea of where Ukraine is in the world. So it's another interesting map to take a look at. In week 2, we will practice some LabX type skills that will help you create the deliverables for LabX. I'll also go over in class everything that is due, and you're welcome to ask questions. Speaking of questions, all questions are on the table. General questions, syllabus questions, ArcPro step questions. We'll probably hold off on those until after LabX, because LabX includes all of the ArcPro steps that you need, or at least the beginning of the ArcPro steps that you'll need for the entire quarter. Be sure to know the due date and until date, what the difference is between them, and how can you tell if an assignment has a grace period. One of the number one things you should focus on is what is due by the next class, or what is the next item due in Canvas. Or, for example, what are we doing in the next class? So if you're responsible about knowing what is due, you'll do very, very well in this course. One of the quirks that I have is I like to bring Easter candy that serves as a reminder to not use pastels in our maps. So we'll have no default Easter symbology in any of our map layouts. So the deal is that if you keep the pastels out, I'll keep the default /Easter candy in the classroom for little snacks. So just please do not leave any default pastels in your submissions. This is likely a refresher from week 1, but what the heck is a folder connection? A folder connection begins in the folders area. You would right-click and create a folder connection. Instead of this practice, we will come up with a little bit different practice, but on your own, if you just want to open a blank project in Pro before LabX, you can try to create some folder connections. All it is a path to some data. That path cannot be broken. If it does get broken, we must fix it. There's no visualization that it's there except for it appearing underneath the folders tab, underneath and indented before you get to locators, excuse me. We will practice these in class in preparation for LabX, or you may do it on your own. You may have noticed if you're watching this video or while you watch this video that all of these are on my YouTube page. There are playlists for every class, and you're welcome to watch any of the videos. There are some ArcMap videos, which we're no longer using, the ArcMap software, but you're welcome to watch those. They work similarly to how ArcPro works. It's just a little bit different in how the tools work. But this is my YouTube webpage where all the lecture and skills videos can be found. LabX is your first technical lab. I've been talking about LabX, showing you images of LabX. This is what LabX will look like. It's a data management lab. However, you will create a very, very, very basic map and then a pseudo layout. It'll be a very, very brief layout. Moving forward, almost every other lab will have in GIS 311. You'll complete a layout. You will also, as this fourth caret indicates, you'll submit a directory of some sort. Some directories will be named differently because they'll have different information. But for LabX, you'll have a labx_dir for directory, zip file that you will submit, and you'll have a docx submission. I should actually indicate here that there will be a PDF submission for your layout. At the very end, there's a quiz, actually two quizzes. There'll be for some labs, there'll be a write-up quiz, and then there'll be more of a skills type quiz online. Be sure you submit all of the required deliverables, the items you upload, as well as taking the quizzes so that you don't lose any points. As a brief reminder, in class, we will have a pretty extensive in-class demo. You'll work on part of LabX or get prepared for LabX and submit some material. So it is a graded assignment to make sure that you can complete these steps so that nothing goes awry when you're completing LabX. And then, of course, there'll be plenty of time to work on LabX. That is all we have, or all I have, for week 2 lecture. As a reminder, before you leave the lab, I know you're not likely in the lab now, but remember to complete all deliverables, properly eject your USBs, sign off the computer, restart the computer. While all this is happening, feel free to return an HDMI cord if you borrowed one, and then either leave the tent card or bring it up to the front. And again, that concludes week 2 lecture in GIS 311.